Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are. And I just want to welcome you to this session of ERP Agile Implementation Bootcamp. And today I'll be starting off with a kickoff session and just taking you through a few of the core things that we need to look at on the course. And a lot of the materials on the course, I will show you where to get them and also how the course is going to run. So I'll start off with the introduction, just to give you a little bit of introduction about myself. And my name is Yemi, and I've been running this course now, the same course since 2020. So this is the third year that I'm running this course. And it's evolved a lot in the last 3 years. And this version of it is the first time I'm running it in this fashion. So to give you a little bit of background about myself, I've been working as an ERP consultant for about 25 years and about 8 years in ERP Cloud. And the journey in the last 8 years, I would say, has been very interesting as far as cloud is concerned. I started off with working for about 18 months, or so 1.5 years on ERP Cloud on a UK implementation and in various guises. So the first 18 months was probably looking at EBS to ERP Cloud implementation, vanilla, and also another EBS to ERP Cloud, one from a government and the other from a fresh implementation of I think it was a manufacturing firm. The next 7 odd years, I would say, is mainly a global implementation, and that involves implementing in about 15 countries. So we started off with the UK rollout, and then we went on to other countries, India, Hong Kong, Switzerland, and then the rest of the world, basically. And that is probably where I gained a lot of the knowledge that I'll be kind of sharing with you guys. The model or the mode of implementation which I'm using is pretty much the same for a lot of cloud implementations, and they call it different names, but the mode of implementing cloud is very different to EBS, especially for those who are coming in from an EBS background. E-Business Suite is the previous release of ERP applications that Oracle uses. So I'm going to start off by doing a very quick introduction, asking you guys to do your introductions, but not on this platform because we are running this on as a review session. So what I will ask you to do is to log into the community page and then introduce yourselves. I only just started the community page this year, and I want it to be a bit more interactive. I know there are some people who I can see on the course who've attended before. So and I know that we used to run this on Slack, but now we're moving on to the community page. So let me just show you where the community page is, and we will then go into some of the areas that you need to look at when doing this. So let me just go into the community page. That's just a moment. Let me just. So the community page. So when you log into your homepage, you will have a list of courses. You go to your dashboard, and that's where you find a list of all the courses that you have access to. And then you will select the starter. No, not starter. Sorry, we're going into learn, and then select open community. So once you open the community, then you will discover that there is an area called introductions. So I see that some people have already started, which is good. And I've put in a mode of the introductions as well. So your name, where you are, where you're based, your experience of Oracle applications, and then, yeah, just tell us a little bit about yourself. I can see that some people are doing this. And also, you can also add your LinkedIn page. Now, the reason for that is twofold. One is for me to be able to connect with you on LinkedIn. And then also, as part of the last part of the course, I want us to build our LinkedIn pages so that we are able to start to look at how to get a job as an ERP consultant, which is the earn mode. Now, the reason why I've called this community earn is that this is the platform where people who are really serious about becoming an Oracle consultant as a career will actually invest their time and also their learning efforts. So it's not just you looking at the videos, but you are doing something proactively to be able to become a solid ERP consultant. So that's the reason why I've formed this, and I want us to be interactive here. I'm going to put a job board here as well, where people can post jobs. There are people, I mean, currently there's 73 members here, and I know that there are people here who are employers. When I say employers, these are project managers, people who are experienced, people who I've worked with in the past. So there's a lot of knowledge that we can share in this board. And that's why I've created this community area only for those people who are attending this course. Now, so having said that, if you're new, be rest assured that there are people around who are ready to help you. There are some other people here who are also mentors, who are going to be mentoring other people as well. Now, so that's the area for the quick introduction. Now, a few housekeeping, just to give you a little bit of things that we need to do as we go through these sessions. Is 1 hour, but I'll tell you, is going to be loaded. This 1 hour is a loaded session where you will be able to do quite a lot. And for you to come in on some of these sessions, it will just be us asking ourselves questions about what you've done in your previous exercise. So housekeeping, do a sound check, make sure that you can hear me. If you can't hear me, please let me know. I did that initially when I started, so I know that I'm audible. And then find a quiet place, get a notebook, come prepared, get ready to absorb the information that you're going to be getting. Be punctual. We're going to be starting on time and we end on time. Those who've been on these sessions before know that I'm a stickler for starting on time and finishing on time. I may be 1 or 2 minutes late in terms of finishing, depending on the questions, but I tend to start and finish on time because I know that people are respect time. And if you're in this consulting game, I call it a game, then you will know that what we sell is time. So time is very precious, so be punctual. Always mute the mic when you're not speaking, and that's because sometimes when we are recording, it causes some kind of interference. So please always mute your mic when you're not speaking. And also ask questions. And I will tell you when we are going to be asking questions in a few minutes. Then focus on the session. So if you have your mobile phone that's distracting you, switch it off. You know, my phone rang just now, but I put it on silent, but for some reason it still rang. But always, sometimes I switch off my phone, sometimes I put it into airplane mode because we need to be really focused when we're doing this. It's 1 hour, and I believe that 1 hour is a good time for us to stay focused and just put your phone on airplane mode so that you're not disturbed. So focus on the session, get a notepad, come prepared, and get ready. Now, in terms of the daily schedule, which is 1 hour. This is how the time is going to be planned. I'm going to be taking you through slides and demo for about 45 minutes for the next 20 days, 5 days a week, and from 5 o'clock UK time to 6 o'clock. And then we'll ask questions for about 10 minutes or so, and then we'll go through the daily task about the remainder, which is for about 5 minutes. So we have 45 minutes slides and demo, 10 minutes for questions and any suggestions, and then the daily project and task for about 5 minutes. So that's basically the day 1 hour plan. Now, in terms of the course tools, we have the webinar, which you're on right now. We have also the community pages, which I've actually showed you how to get to it. If you don't know how to get to it, please send me put a text or send me a message. I will go through it again when we finish the session so that you know exactly where to go to find the information that you will need for these sessions. And then also there is some information on OneDrive. I will give you the details of how to get those details as we go on through the sessions. And then access to the environment. You will get access to the environment for this month, and for every month if you're subscribed to the to the membership channel, then you'll get that. Otherwise, if you've bought the one-time session, which you just pay a one fee, then you still have to subscribe to get the access to the environment, which is the $37 a month one. But again, the key thing is that you need to, for attending this session, you will get access to the environment. Now, I'm going to give you access to the environment for this week. Next week, the environment we're going to get next week is the one where we'll be using for all the other labs for the next 4 weeks after next week, for the next 3 weeks after next week. So you get another environment next week. Now, let's have a quick look at the course plan. So in terms of the course plan, this is what we'll be going through over the next 4 weeks. It's intensive, and I know that if you are able to complete in the next 4 weeks, you will be a very different Oracle consultant. Now, if you're very new, you may need to go through it a number of times. Now, from those who have been on this course before, you know that the content is a lot, and I've designed it so that it's a boot camp. Now, some people are coming from being an expert and they want to dive into a lot of other details. Some people are coming in fresh. They may need to go through the materials a bit more time than others, or spend a bit more time after the sessions to go through it. Now, I will recommend that you spend at least 2 hours a day going through the labs, at least minimum 2 hours a day going through the labs. And it could be more depending on how quick you learn and how quickly you want to get to the end point. So let's go through the details of the course. Now, the course plan is split into 4 weeks, 4 weeks of different areas. So we have the pre-implementation area, which is the first 5 days. The next, when I say pre-implementation, I'll take you through what that means. Then you have the functional setups from the second week. From next week, Monday, you would have configured GL, AP, AR by Tuesday. And that gives you an idea of how we're going to be going through this boot camp. But I'll be showing you some shortcuts, some quick ways of doing certain things. And then we go into the technical aspects of the course, which is really, from a functionality perspective, is still part of the role of a functional consultant. When I say technical, I'm talking about interfaces and those kind of stuff. And then we go through the post-implementation aspects. So what do you do after you've done the implementation, data migration, training, and also testing and all that stuff. So that's basically how we split it up. But then in terms of the details, so we're going to start off today with the starter course. Now, I will show you how to get to the starter course in a few few minutes. So someone has said that they can't find the community page. I will show you that to you much later again. But then the fact that you're on this course means that you should have received some information that will give you access to that community page, but I'll show you how to get to it. So you got the discover starter course. And then tomorrow we'll still go through the starter course, but then we're looking tomorrow more at the financials overview. We're going into a bit more details about the financials overview. Then Wednesday, we'll be looking again still at the discover phase. Now we split the course into 7 different areas, which is the discover, define, design, develop, debug, deliver, and deploy, which is the 7 Ds. I'm going to talk about the 7 Ds methodology and why we implement the way that we're implementing. And again, for those who are coming in from another ERP or EBS, then you will understand why the way that cloud is implemented is done in the way it's done. And I've actually did this method. It could be called, as I mentioned, could be called something else, but the mode of operation and how it runs is basically the same. So you got discover. We'll be looking at the questionnaire. We'll be reviewing the questionnaire. These are the questionnaires that you get from the business, and then we'll go through that on the 3rd day. So I'll give you some samples. We'll review them, and then what we need to do by Wednesday on those ones. Then we go into what is called the functional specification. There are some which are pre-written. There are some tasks for you to do regarding looking at the functional specs. And I'll give you the definition of all of this as we go on, but I'm just giving you a timeline of what we need to deliver over the next 4 weeks. Then we go into design. By Friday, we're looking at security, the model of how we're going to log in, creating users and all that, and also the functional design. We'll look at that by Friday, the first part of the design phase. Next week, Monday, we're still in the design phase. We'll be looking at the chart of accounts and process flows. Then we'll go into develop, which is where we'll look at the rapid implementation. We'll look at the enterprise structure and how we can very quickly implement based upon the structures that we have. Then develop. Next week, Wednesday, still on the develop mode, we then finish off with payables and receivables, and then we start our first phase of testing, which is debug. So we'll be doing some unit tests on GL, AP, and AR. And by Friday, next week, Friday, we would have finished implementing GL, AP, AR, and then we'll be testing bank payments and receipts by next week, Friday. Week after, we're back again into design mode. So the design, develop, debug is iterative. So we'll be going through cycles, of these. And as you go on, you see that some of these cycles are then happening a lot faster, because once we've built what is called the MVP, minimum viable product, then it's easy to roll through all of this. So design, the next phase of design is more now looking at it at a technical perspective. So we look at the technical design at that point, and then we go into develop and debug, basically on the Tuesday of the integration area. We're looking at the HCM loader, for example, how to very quickly create lots and lots of users. And then we move on again into develop and debug on the reporting side of things. And then we look at the approvals, and then we look at the subledger accounting. So by the end of week 3, we are now looking at the accounting. We've done the core of the integration, reporting, approvals, subledger accounting. And then the start of the final week, we're looking at payments. We're looking at core payments development. And then we're going into other areas like receipts, and then cash management. And then on the Thursday, we go into delivery, which is more or less training. We look at what we need to cover from a training perspective, and then we move swiftly into cutover and deploying into production. So, and then we'll do some wrap-ups on exam prep and all this stuff. Yeah.
So it's 1 second. Are you displaying anything? Are you
yes,
presenting any?
I am presenting, and I'm hoping that people can see my screen. Can people see my screen? Let me just have a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you can see. You can see my screen. Yeah, people can see my screen. So I will. Yeah. So that means that you probably need to check your. I don't know whether you're using a phone, and you need to move
a laptop.
Using a laptop, then I'm presenting on Zoom. So you should be able to, don't worry, it's all going to be recorded, and I'll give people opportunities to ask questions again in about 15,
I'll probably
20
just leave and then rejoin again. So
yeah,
that's
okay.
Thanks.
That's fine. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So that's the plan for what we are going to be doing over the next 20 days. Now, so very quickly in terms of the methodology, I just want to go through the 7 Ds methodology in a bit more detail from the kickoff perspective. And we're going to be looking at the changes that has happened over the past few years. I'll probably say that in the post-pandemic era, a lot of companies are now going cloud, whether it's for ERP, whether it's for other type of solutions within the company. Cloud is now the thing. So the approach to building cloud applications and testing and using ERP is now changed. So it's now based more on solutions rather than on requirements. So with traditional ERP, what you would have is requirements driven. Software is adjusted to the customer processes, and there's so many customizations in the software. And the problem with that, it becomes very lengthy and it becomes very expensive. And the user engagement is usually quite short at the end of the implementation and just before go live. Now, with the solution-driven approach, it's agile. Now, agile can mean 2 things. It can mean the method. It could also mean the pace. Now, but with that, what you have is that you have something called the pre-configuration. So the pre-configuration is based upon best practice. So there are some best practice modes that you can use for maybe building your chart of accounts, building your reports. There's a lot of processes that are pre-built. For example, if you want to approve an invoice, which is non-PO invoice, for example, there are certain rules that you can build very quickly. So there are certain things that can be pre-built using your pre-configuration. So the pre-configuration is the core setup that you can very quickly build as you are getting into your solution-driven approach. So with that, you then engage your users very quickly, and they get good sight of the application, and they start to use the application from a very early on in the implementation. And you can go live a lot quicker. Now, this is where it gets very interesting, because after go live, you then discover that the application has a lot of updates. And a lot of companies have actually missed this part, because they go live, they're still thinking that it's still part of the traditional ERP, but then they realize that every 3 months, the software is changing, they're upgrading, but they're not really ready for it. And that's where a lot of our services, like consultants, as we are, come in, because they're doing their day job, but they don't have time to look at the new things that have come in. So there's an opportunity as a consultant, as to go into the business as a solutions architect, for example, or even as an systems accountant. There's so many roles out there that are looking at people who would help to support the software as a kind of as they are live and as they want to sustain the application. So this is where this post-go live services come in. It's more like support, but it's an enhanced support that you have post-go live. Then if it's solution driven, it's you're adopting best practice, there's minimum customization, even none. Well, there's PaaS for SaaS, which I'll talk about much later, but then is accelerated and is also cost efficient. So they're using something called an agile target operating model. Now, so with this agile target operating model, what we've done on this course is to convert this into a methodology, which uses the discover, which is what the business needs to do. So we've got a configuration questionnaire, the project plan, enterprise structure. So you look at that at that point. And then you have the definition, which is looking at what the software does, which is in the define phase. So this is where we look at our functional specs, day in the life of a certain user. For example, what happens at month end, for example. Yeah. And then we go into design. We look at the gap analysis. We look at the standard process flows, roles matrix. And you start to look at this at the design phase, and you start to validate who does what in the system. Then we get into develop. We build the system, which is the first iteration of the build. Your functional design, application setup, technical design, all that happens at the develop phase. So you're looking at the building of the system. And this is the phase that takes a bit of time, because in this phase, you have a lot of iterations. So rather than having the traditional conference room pilot, you have an initial build, and then you refine the build many times. And you have daily scrum. You work on things called backlog. So you have a list of to-do list, and every day you're building as you're going along. You're building as you're going along, and you're also at the same time not only just building, but also validating with the business. So you're working alongside the business to build and test as many times as possible. So you can have different review sessions. It could happen many times, and the iteration is quite dynamic and is a recurring cycle. So the key thing there is to build something called the minimum viable product, which is then enhanced as you're going along. So you can go live very quickly with something that is viable. Then you get into the debug phase, which is less tested. You've got test scripts. So there are certain test scripts that are pre-written, which you'll have access to. There's a lot of test scripts which you can do. There are also automation tools which are being used now to test. So the core of your testing is reduced if you look at how things are done in EBS compared to the cloud. And then you get into deliver, which is training the users. There's still end user training. You still got the end user training documentation. I have some that you can use as well for each of the modules that we'll be covering. And then the deploy, which is where we look at data conversion, the migration, cutover to production, the go live, and then and that's pretty much what we need to cover. So requirements, we look at the business processes, solution design, we look at the config. You'll have a lot of config docs that are pre-written for you to use. And then the testing, a lot of test scripts, you have your training documentation and a lot of transition documents, run books, files that you can use to load data into the system, and the methods of loading. So all this will be part of the areas that we'll cover during the course. Now, I'm going to go into the details of some of this in terms of what we're going to be looking at over the next few weeks. So as I said, this is a kickoff session. So we're starting off with Discover, which is looking at the requirements gathering questionnaire and looking at what the business needs to do. So within this questionnaire, you'll have the enterprise structure, the questionnaire for that, general ledger, the accounts payable, accounts receivable, and also cash management. So there are some questionnaires, and the questionnaires are the questions that you need to ask the business about certain aspects of the implementation. And it could be that how many users do you have? How often do you close your period? What's your accounting calendar? what's your chart of account structure? So many other types of questions, like what are the type of payments that you have? So all these standard questions have already been pre-written for you. I'll give you these examples for you to use. And if you're going on as a business analyst, for example, on a project, then you can use these questionnaires as your tool. It's part of the consultant's toolkit. And these are things that I've been using over the past number of years. They've been modified, refined, and in some cases, they've been converted into survey, which are online surveys that people can ask and then use as ways of collecting the information before you start to build. So within that, you have something called a discovery workshop. So you look at the outcome of the questionnaire. This is where you discover what the business needs to do. You then define your scope definition, which is where you review the questionnaire and also validate the requirements. And then you look at your prerequisites. Is a prerequisite to your functional specification document. So you're taking the contents of the questionnaire and you're putting it into a format that the business can use to understand what their requirements are. And then I would normally say that it needs to be signed off, but again, it depends on the business. So it could be part of your requirements documents. But there's a shift here, because in the traditional method of implementation, you take the requirements from the business and then you then go away and build it. But now we're saying that we're asking them questions that will help us to be able to configure the environment using standard processes, standard practice. There might be some deviations, but then this is where you then ask certain questions. That's why do you need it to change? Is it because of regulatory? Is it because of some reporting legal reasons? Is it because of certain things within the accounting community? So there are, or maybe a country, within the country, there are certain laws that means that you need to do things in a certain way. So those are the kind of things that you need to look out for when you're completing the questionnaire. So that's the question, that's the discovery phase. And then the next phase is the definition. Here you're looking at the business processes. There are some standard processes that we'll look at. And also you're looking at what the software does. So here you're focusing more on the business processes. And here you're looking at the functionality of the modules. So what is the functionality within accounts payable, accounts receivable? What can the software do? And you follow certain core process flows. And out of these, you have what is called a functional overview. Again, you'll have some standard functional overview documents that you're going to review and use, again, when you get to your projects. And also, you can take the business through what is called a day in the life of walkthrough. So within that walkthrough, you're taking the business through the application, and then you're taking them through the processes and doing a walkthrough on the system of how all this works. So that's an example of the standard flow. All these are standard flows that are provided by Oracle for the partners, but I'm making it available for you guys to be able to use on this course. And I'm going to kind of take you through how to use them. And then the next phase is design. So on the design phase, you're asking who does what in the system. Again, you're taking your process flows to the next level. And then you're asking yourself certain things as well, which relates to your functional design. When I say asking yourself certain things, this is where you decide whether there is a gap, whether there is some people who need to do certain things. This is where you now start to look at the roles matrix, who needs to do what within the application. You start to think about segregation of duties, is it SOX compliant, and so many other things like controls and risk and security and so on. So this is where you start to think about those areas. If there's a gap, what are the solution? What do you need to do to satisfy this requirement based upon the reason why you have that requirement? So there's a lot to look at in the solution design. And this is where you start to think about the integration as well. What kind of reports do you need? What are the requirements for payments, for example, because that's an outbound interface that goes out to the bank. What is the method of payment? What about cash management? How are you going to get the file back from the bank for your bank reconciliations, for example? What about the approvals for in terms of controls? What about the accounting? You know, when a certain transaction happens, what is the debit? What is the credit? What about the reports? So I started to think about a technical approach to some of these issues or some of these areas that you're identifying. So that's what happens in the solution design phase. You're going a bit more detail into the functionality, looking at gaps, looking at how those gaps will be filled by the solution that you're offering. And then we get into, well, there are a lot of documents that you have for this. You have some templates, you have documentation that already has this information that you can use in the business. Then we get into the develop phase, and this is where you configure and then you start to build. You don't just start configuring when you go on a project. All the stuff that we mentioned are things that you need to think about before you start to configure anything. So we'll take you through all of that, and then we start to build. Now, when we start to build, we're going to be using a lot of iterations here. This is where we'll spend a lot of time on this project. And we'll be looking at the functional and the technical build. So the functional setup, we'll be using some config documentation. You probably know that as BR100s, MC50s. There are different names that they're called, but really these are documents that details the setup in the system. And there are other areas we'll be looking at, like the accounting flow, the touch points with accounting, and I'll be giving you a document that will allow you to identify those core areas as well. So you got the accounting flow, you have the technical build. We'll be looking at the inbound and outbound interfaces. We'll be looking at some of the other areas like the security, approvals, how to set up the approvals, the integrations, the inbound, outbound integrations, the methods that Oracle have provided us with, like there's something called the 5-based desktop integrator. So a data loader that allows us to load the data, FBDI loader. So how to load your data objects. So we're going through all of those as well. Now, from the functional and technical build, as I mentioned, there are documents. So I'll provide you with pre-configured documentation on some of these MC50s, BR100, whatever you want to call them, but the config docs. And then next we'll go into the phase of debugging. This is where we get into the business validation testing. We test the system. We are looking at a number of test scripts. So there are different phases in testing. You have the system integration testing, where you're testing the integration from interfaces. We'll go through that. We have other ones like your user acceptance testing. So, and also your we have test scenarios and test scripts, and this will be based upon a lot of the processes that we'll be looking at. So again, you have a lot of test scripts that are again pre-configured or pre-created. Then you can modify them as you want and use this as your document repository and start to build on this. Then you get into the deliver phase. Again, here is the training aspects. Training has changed a lot. A lot of the training is now based on Zoom or Teams or one of these portals like Google Meet and so on. So the documentation is still required. Training is now mainly role-based, and the training event can be done anywhere. So again, I have a number of documentation that I can give you for the end user training, and you can use this again on your projects. And then we get to deploy. We're going to be transitioning to live, and this is where we are looking at what do we need to do before we go live. And there are a number of things. So for example, we have the transition to live, the data migration, the cutover, the go live support module. And we're looking at that, the hypercare period, which is after go live, what happens. And to support with that, we'll be looking at some of the data load. So we have a number of data load objects that you will have access to and be able to use that to be able to get into the meat of what happens during data migration. So that's the core of the course in terms of what we'll cover. There's a lot to do over the next 20 days. And the assignments, which I'm going to take you through. So for today, we're going to be looking at the transaction flows, data entry, account creation to expense reports to the payments. So that's the first thing we're going to be looking at. And then we'll start by going through the starter course. So with the starter course, you have the basically what I've just done in the last 45 minutes expanded into 2 hours. And then you then go into some of the core processes of the employee setup, the accounts payable process, and so on. Now, let me just show you how to get there before I start to take questions. Now, once you log into your page, you should be able to see an area that says My Dashboard. So once you click on My Dashboard, it will bring you to a page that shows you all the courses that you have access to. Now, if you are in the Earn community, you will have a number of these that will be assigned to you, and most people on this course will have bought this as a bundle somehow, but at least you'll have minimum 3 or 4, which will be the starter course. You'll have the OD and the dessert. So starter, main course, and dessert. You will have at least those 3. Now, if you go to the open community, for those who say they can't see the open community, so if you go to the one that says Earn and select open community, it will take you to a page which looks like this. Now, you can also attend these sessions directly from these upcoming events. So tomorrow, the link is the same. We're starting exactly the same time, and then you should be able to get the link. That's the link to the event here. So we have a number of people who have said they're interested. So that's that. So you have access. Then, as I mentioned earlier on, if you go to the introductions and introduce yourself. So just introduce yourself, and then that will help us to, collaborate as well as we go on. So that's will be very useful for each and every one of us. And then in terms of the access to the details, now on this page, let me go to Bootcamp March 2023. So if you select the Bootcamp March 2023, it will take you through to the course. Now, if you select preview course, it should open up training course. So this will bring you to this page. Now, once this brings you to this page, then you can then go through this. This is the 7 Ds methodology. This is what we've just gone through just now. This is just a pre-recorded same session that we've just gone through, pre-recorded, but takes you through it in a bit more detail, and there's a lot more that detail that I've gone through. but there could be accounting exceptions. So, and then at the end of it, you've got the assignment. So the assignment is in the next part here. So this assignment takes you to the starter course introduction. So if you click on the starter course introduction, it will bring you to a course. So this is the course that I would like you to go through. But today we're looking at the expenses. I just wanted to get a feel for the application. So go through the expenses. Now you would see a video, you would see some text as well, which gives you through to the exercises, video, and again, some text, the exercises, video. So today you'll be going through the expenses, and also you'll be going through payables. Now, all this should take you maybe about 2 to 3 hours. I'll probably say 2 hours. Some people can go through this very, very quickly. Some people, it will take a bit more time. If you don't finish today, don't worry, you can still continue tomorrow. Again, you can go through the introduction. This again gives you just an introduction to the whole course. 7 Ds, which we've just gone through, the course plan, business blueprint. If you're very new to ERP and you just want to understand what ERP is all about. And then again, if you're very new to business models, then you've got something here about the different kinds of business models, just for you to get an understanding of what it's like. And then I have something here about ERP, Cloud ERP overview, and also core finance processes. So again, this gives you a lot of background as to what you need to do if you're very new. Congratulations once again for joining this course. Okay, so that's now, so you've got this. So any questions before we finish for today? Any questions? No questions. Okay, yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I've got a question. Okay, if you can hear me. This is Tony. I joined up with your with this course about 10 minutes before it started. So would I have been sent emails with the directions and all that sort of thing? You know, the links you talk about?
Well, no. Okay. No. Yeah, so everything is on the community page. Yeah, so and that's deliberate because I just wanted people to engage more in the community so that we all, so once you start on the community page, then all the instructions will be provided during these review sessions and also on the community page. Now, what I may do is at the end of every day, just give you more instructions so that you then focus only on the stuff that you need to do today. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Bella.
Yeah.
Bella has.
So I just want to ask about the practice session. The 2 hours for the practice session, that's different from the video. If we videos, you know, you have some videos on the main course. So do we still have to watch those videos and then do the practice?
Right. Very good question. Now, when I said 2 hours, I'm talking about the time it would take you to complete the practice sessions. Now, one thing I didn't mention, which you've just touched on, is the link to the to where you can get the practice sessions. So that's the link to the so if you look at this link here, which is, sorry, this message here that says kickoff session, and you expand this to read more. Now, I will be putting details here every day. Okay. So day one, this is the session. This is what we need to do for day one. Tomorrow, I'll put another one in there as well. It will probably be about 5-6 hours before the session starts. Now, if you scroll down, the environment details for today's session is here.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the environment details. So this will take you to the environment, and then you can put in your so if let's go back to, so the username is as per the exercise. This is the password. Is the password here. So just to give you an example, and please don't change the password. I've had that before on previous courses where people have gone in and changed the password, and that is not useful for everyone else. So if we go into employee expense process, so the first one that you're doing is that you're viewing this, and then you've got to practice exercise, and it says that log in as Chandra Williams with the assigned password. So the assigned password is the password that I'll be providing on here. So that's the password.
Okay.
And then you go to sign in. Yeah.
So we have to watch the day one introduction and 7 days methodology, and that's like 2 hours, the video.
Yeah. You see the video for the 7 Ds is exactly what we've done. I've kind of squashed it into about 45 minutes, but it's just expanded now. But in terms of the labs, the exercise, so I'm saying that the exercise should take you about 2 hours.
All right. Okay. So that's aside from the video. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Exactly. Now I just want to mention something. If you log in and you get this page, don't worry about it. What you need to do, just click on the home icon at the top here. Yeah. And that will bring you to the page. It's a bit slow. I'm not sure why, but it should bring you to this page. And then you can then start to, okay, let me just make a few changes. It's good I'm checking this now. Otherwise, some people will come back and say, I can't see expenses. So let me just fix that. Now, one thing to note is that Oracle provisioned this environment, and they're usually okay for about a week or so. Sorry, so no, it should be for about 3 weeks. Yeah, about 3 weeks. And there are other people who are using these environments as well. So if there's anything that you find that you cannot do, please put it on the community, and then I will very quickly have a look, or some of the other mentors will quickly have a look, and then they can give you the solution very quickly. And if you send me an email directly, or text me or phone me, I may be in a meeting and I may not have the time. So that's why I want people to put everything on the community page so that other people can help them as well. So let's see what's happening here. Right, so that's the page, that's the create expense page. Yeah. So that should be fine. So any other questions?
Can I ask where I can find your number if I need to speak to you directly, please?
Right. Okay, I've just said that.
Yeah.
So because I can, okay. If you send me an email.
Yeah.
And then I'll reply you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But I would say that the best thing to do is probably send me a text via WhatsApp, because I could be in a meeting and I may not be able to, because I'm also on projects at the moment as well.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
So let me know if I'm in a meeting, then I may not be able to respond to you immediately.
Sure, that's all right.
Or if it's something that someone else can help you with, please put it on the community, because there are other people who may be able to help you a lot more quicker.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah. But in all, we're all here to help you.
Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Are we using Slack for the environment details that you send out daily?
Sorry, are we using what?
Slack.
No, we're not using Slack. We're using the community.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, please use the community. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. There are some questions here. Are the live sessions Monday? Yes, the live sessions are Monday to Friday. Do we have to create a new user before doing the assignments? Not the one that you are going to be doing today and tomorrow. The new users will be required. I mean, when we get to the point of you creating your user, then I will let you know when you would do that. Yeah.
Can I ask, what about the username to access the environment?
Yes, the username is embedded inside the labs. So
is that
in the labs,
Chandra? Is it Chandra or?
Yes, Chandra Williams. That's the username. So in each of the labs,
cool.
Yeah. So
Cool.
that'll be the username. The password will be the password that is shared here. So username as per the exercise, that's the password. Yeah. And
Thank
then, yeah, that's fine. So if you go to other parts of the lab, it may be somebody else. For example, this person is Roger Bolton. So this is just to show you the segregation of duties, and that it's not the same person that will do everything in the usual environment. So that's why it changes. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Are we ready to go? Ready for the next?
One question. So it's important just to follow the schedule of exercises on a daily basis and cover the material. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Excellent.
It is. Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah. One last question. So this session, I know like you're recording it. So where is it going to be stored if people want to watch just this?
Right.
Session, please.
Another good question. Okay. So if you want to watch it or you've missed a session, so if you go into the course, actually it's not going to be here. It's not going to be here. So if you go to your dashboard, there is a course you should have called review sessions. So in this review sessions course, what you will have is here at the bottom here, you will have review sessions March. So here is where you would have the recording. The recording will be here. You can actually join from here as well. Yeah, because this is actually linked to Zoom. So you can actually join from here as well. Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, that's fine. So they will all, I've already got the sessions all here, so you can always come back here and see them. Yeah. And these are the previous review sessions that we had in the previous times. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Are we ready to go? Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm going to ask this. But like in order kind of to access the course, is it just going to the dashboard and then there will be kind of a link to, if you can just kind of demonstrate that again, please. I'm sorry to ask that.
So let's go back to the dashboard. So this is the dashboard. So you log into your page, and as you log in, you'll see my dashboard here. So click on your dashboard. You'll see all the courses that you have access to. Down here, you have your communities. And then this is the one, this is the main course that so if you click on start course, again, it will bring you back to this page. If you go to the communities and open community, again, it brings you to this page, and you can go to Bootcamp. Yeah, and again, all the information will be here. You can always go to preview course as well. Yeah, so there's different ways of getting into it. Yeah.
All right, thanks very much. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, it's 6 p.m. I know that it's probably 12 noon for some other people. Some people will be late at night as well, but thank you very much. And we'll meet tomorrow. Same time, same place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.